Think of how many times you've had to stand in a line without pushing your way through, or you've had to refrain from buying that new pair of shoes that you really want because you have bills to pay. Or something that happens, I think, often. Think of a time that you've had to respond to a social situation in one way, but in your brain, you've developed a million other ways in the way you'd want to respond that are sometimes a little less appropriate. Having the ability to do these things falls under the prefrontal cortex function of impulse control. While this seems really natural to many of us as adults, children are likely to test and to explore their impulses. This function doesn't fully develop until our mid-20s. However, impulse control can be nourished and built up over time, beginning with children when they're very young. Impulse control is a health management occupation. While it falls under this category, it has a direct impact on many other areas of occupation, including education, play, and social participation. Children who learn to control their impulses, even young, tend to have more friends, they tend to be more focused and successful in school, and they tend to be more independent. While impulse control is something to work on with all populations of kids, it could be especially useful for us as OTs in therapy sessions when we're working with children with ADHD or oppositional defiant disorder or conduct disorders. The first step to help children develop impulse control is emotional recognition. It's really important in order to have any control over what we do to know how we're feeling in any given moment. So in order to do this, I will be utilizing the zones of regulation. So this basically breaks our feelings down into 4 different categories. So we have the green zone, which is associated with happy, calm, ready to learn. We have the yellow zone, worried, excited, frustrated, nothing too out of control. The blue, which is associated with sad, sick, tired. And then we have the red zone, mad, angry, terrified, out of control. So the first thing I would have clients do is identify what zone they're in. To grade this activity up, I would provide all of the words, if not even more, or we could develop our own list of words that associate with each zone. This way they can more accurately define what they are feeling. To grade this activity down, I would just give them a card with maybe just the face associated with the color. We might also just provide maybe 1 or 2 example words, and we'd read those together and talk about what those emotions are a little bit further. I think when talking to kids, it's really important to find something they're interested in. I think they're a little more apt to share, just like any human, if we can find something that connects. So in order to adapt this task, I have made cards that are just smiley faces, those emojis. I have made cards that maybe will appeal to the younger groups by using these inside out characters. And then I have also developed cards, Pokemon cards, to help us identify those feelings too in a little bit of a different way. And we'll utilize these for another activity a little bit later. This is just another part of the activity, is providing a check-in form. So this might be something after a few therapy sessions to be utilized instead of taking the time to identify them all together all the time. Then maybe the client can come in and this is the first thing they do, or you could send this home as homework too and have clients kind of check in with themselves on the daily. So to grade this up, I would remove those color blocks at the top and the client would have to fill it in themselves. They would have to read the directions. They would have to answer the questions on their own or talk through it on their own with me without me prompting what those are. To grade it down, I might provide this and then we would either talk through these or they would just have to provide shorter examples. With that too, I think it's important to keep track of our check-ins and our zones and when we're feeling that way, maybe there's pattern in behavior. So I would also utilize with the client some type of calendar. So this here, the entire month, we could utilize our stickers to show each zone. And so just color coordinated face stickers, super fancy stickers, I know, that they can just place on the calendar. And then we can kind of see if there's any patterns in behavior. In order to grade this up, I might provide stickers face stickers with no color coordinated. Or we might even grade this up further by providing just a word that associates with the zones located at the top here. That way they can identify what they are feeling just through the word. To grade this down, rather than doing a whole month's worth, which this would be something to do at home and through therapy, we could just maybe focus on 1 week. Another game that I would use with my clients is utilizing the Pokemon cards. So again, I have these Pokemon cards that actually tie into, yes, the different zones. My green are right here. And as you look at each Pokemon card, they identify the emotion, and then they identify strategies to get through it. Some of them also give like actions instead. So one of them is yelling instead of maybe feeling angry. So what we would work on with the client is placing my yellow, blue, and red cards in one and my green cards in the other. Now green is the ideal zone to be in. So our goal would be to choose a card from one pile, and this one says that the action is hitting. So what could we do if we feel like hitting somebody or something to get to a happier place? So these emotions in the zone, happy, calm. How can we calm ourselves down? And so we would talk through those strategies. And this is when I would utilize and place some of my emotional regulation tools out. So this helps with that impulse control side of things. Instead of hitting somebody, which is the impulse that I have, what can I do instead? Maybe I utilize a stress ball and I squeeze it and I count to 5 and I slowly release. This is a great way for kids to be able to do that. They can also utilize a stuffed animal. Squeezing, hugging, take a pillow and scream into it, whatever it is to control the emotion, control that impulse to hit somebody instead. So in order to grade this up, again, I would just provide fewer things. I would make my cards a little simpler. And I could adapt this task by utilizing larger cards to make them easier to see, because the print is rather fine on these. And just briefly, a few other amazing things to help work on emotional regulation and impulse control for kids are games. And games, who doesn't love to play games? I still love to play games. So some of the things that you can do are building with dominoes. I really love building things. So if we're trying to build a tall tower, we have to be really conscious of how we're reacting, how we're moving. If it falls, rather than being frustrated and tossing it, what do we do instead? So this can be a really great tool to help kids with impulse control. Building something higher and getting that vertical lift is way more challenging. Another great game to play for impulse control is Jenga. So we know that if you go for something too quickly or you push it too hard, that tower is tumbling down. So impulse control and Jenga go hand in hand. The client would have to go really slow or plan their thoughts out. They have to have a plan to get the block. And creating that plan provides that time for them to control those impulses to just grab and snatch and really think through their actions and what they're doing. So Jenga is a great way to do that. In order to grade it down, I would provide maybe fewer blocks, or as the therapist, I might start the block push out. They can help me choose and we can work through a plan together. I might start the pull of the block and then they'll finish it. I also love mazes. So this maze is a little on the advanced side of things. So this would definitely be used as a grade way up. But just to really help the mental process, thinking about how I have to get through this in order to make it to the end without bumping into walls or getting stuck. These things help with impulse control because it's formulating that plan again. So really thinking about the actions before they happen just helps to create a better finish. Again, impulse control is easily developed in kids by play, and we can create many different activities, especially as OTs, to help develop this skill. So again, impulse control, emotional regulation, they have a direct impact on many areas of occupation. but they truly fall under that health management piece, and that new OTPF4 just really shows the importance of health management, emotional regulation, those impulse control. Just they're the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day functions that we don't even think about necessarily, but are so important to living a good and full life. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you can utilize impulse control and emotional regulation in future therapy sessions.